there's a 10-step plan. Autocrats come to power. There's a 10-step plan. And we're at about step 9. So step 1, you have a free and fair election, but it's the last time. Because once that person wins, they don't intend to let anybody else or anyone else take the power that they have amassed for themselves or for their ticket. Second thing they do is that they exceed the realms of executive power. So you see a bunch of executive orders coming out claiming all kinds of powers that a president doesn't hold. Number 3, they then take the competing versions of power and try to either make them complicit or neuter them. So you have a Congress that basically has forgotten they got a job, and then you have a judiciary that's either complicit or neutered. And it's neutered because if the president, if the executive refuses to follow the rules, then you've neutralized the judiciary because the judiciary doesn't actually have enforcement power. Number 4, you go after the media. With the media, you make sure that you demonize and criticize the legitimate media so that nobody trusts it. And then you create an echo chamber so that the only truth that people hear is the truth you want them to hear, even if it's not truth. Even if you put truth in the name, it's not true. Then you start to gut government. You fire all of the people who know how to do stuff. You break democracy by making people think they don't need it. And the best way to do that is to make sure that the things that they've learned to rely on are no longer available. Because then you become the only way they get what they want. So you fire the CDC so that vaccine rates drop and the disease rises. You fire FEMA so that when there's a natural disaster, the only way you get what you need is by begging for it. So you gut the civil service so that no one can actually do the work that democracy is supposed to protect us for. At the same time, you hire a bunch of people that you call loyalists, and you put them in place so that they don't hire anybody who doesn't agree with you, but you also put them in positions of power. So then your next step is that you go after the people who do the good work. So you sue law firms, you sue philanthropies. Then step 7, you got to have someone to blame. They've blamed everybody. They've blamed women, they've blamed children, they've blamed people of color. They've blamed immigrants. They are doing all of that because they know at step 7, if you can push that forward, then we're fighting each other and fighting for survival instead of fighting for our country. And then you start to incentivize private violence. That's step 9. Maybe you send the National Guard and Marines and you militarize kidnapping people off of the streets, throwing them into detention camps, and then arresting people who dare to challenge you, calling any question obstruction of justice. Civic participation, the First Amendment, is the 9th category because if you can militarize your response, you also convince people it's not worth the possible pain of calling out the problems. And once you've gotten to step 9, step 10 is easy. You make sure no one ever votes again because now you've got them captive, now you've got them scared, now you've got them poor, and now you've got the power. That's autocracy in 10 steps.
So I've been playing this for my daughter before bed every night for the last week, and I don't understand why she can't sleep.
Yes, it is a lovely lullaby. Folks, welcome to the Rattle Cruise podcast, where we dig deep to reach high, and of course, it's always progress through action. I'm your co-host, Peyron Baxter.
Your co-host, Ram Sandoval.
And I'm your co-host, Ron Cabuno.
And that was the voice of Stacey Abrams, a woman who has never shrunken her language or shrunken herself to make sure she was telling the truth to the American people. I mean, that clip, again, is always very, very shocking, but still, like, that's what's happening.
Good time to show your shirt off.
Yes, exactly. Believe women, especially the ones that are trying to tell you the truth. As I grab my own bosom. But no, yes, guys, again, another slow week of news since Sunday. Nothing's been happening. But my God, I guess we'll just talk about sports.
Well, yeah. So first off, make sure you like, subscribe, share with 5 of your best friends. Tell them to check us out. If they do not know what's going on, tell them to check it out. Because we will.
And I want to apologize to all these faithful listeners who keep waiting for the sports.
Yes, it comes at the 90th minute.
Yeah, you got to stick around.
Yeah, stick around. Well, let's start local. So, Rom, there was some local news that was happening here. You were there live, but our favorite mayor, Bobby Coinflip, had a little bit of a friction situation with his city council. Tell us about it.
Yeah, I'll play the clip here a little bit.
And it's a shame, but are you aware that people view our YouTube like it's a reality show?
Majority of Monroe City Council say they have lost confidence in their mayor. Tonight they voted 5-2 to pass a vote of no confidence. Council members accuse Robert Burns of using.
So,
Yikes.
yeah, so there was they do the strategic planning meetings before, before the monthly council meeting. So I went and checked it out on Tuesday. There was a couple things on the agenda that were interesting. So one was about the mayor pro tem position, basically the mayor's sidekick. In this case, his name is David Dotson. I would say the smarter out of the two, probably, one of Burns, in my opinion, kind of his handler to help him navigate his role. But they try to be on the same page. So that was on the agenda. And then also the second was a vote for no confidence for Mayor Robert Burns. But they essentially voted to remove Mayor Pro Tem Dotson from the Mayor Pro Tem position. He is no longer that. It is now formerly continues to be Councilwoman Serluda Anthony, who is now Mayor Pro Tem Serluda Anthony, and they had that vote, and that was so that happened. And then they voted to have a vote of no confidence for Mayor Burns, primarily because, as they said, he was using city letterhead as mayor letterhead to make personal statements, personal opinions. So both of these were raised from the kind of bipartisan, really. So I know that the council is not supposed to be partisan up until, I guess, about a month ago when they changed the rules. However, these are conservatives and, so Republicans and Democrats who both basically raised this and voted on it. And so there was a bipartisan effort. There's bipartisan non-support for the mayor and his capabilities. It's for me, he's a liar. He's dishonest. He's incompetent. So that alone would say, okay, there's no confidence. I personally thought that the people who voted to remove Mayor Pro Tem and to say no confidence in Mayor Burns, I thought kind of fumbled the delivery. It came across to me as partisan, to be honest. I still believe that they were right, but the way that they presented it was fumbled. And so I didn't speak. I kind of, I just left after that and was like, well, that's good. It's symbolic, anyways, but it is what it is. And I think, that the people should know that there's no confidence across the entire council. So that's what's happened in North Carolina. They moved the vote. He says he didn't know that the Republicans were doing this. I say that's bullshit. That's bull. He probably knew regardless. He's saying he didn't. Even if he didn't know, he didn't have a problem with being run over as the mayor. No one told him this, right? He didn't stick up for the people of Monroe to say they should have a choice. He didn't say anything to the council to say they should have a voice in this decision. He basically supported it, so he let it happen. And he has no influence. So if they didn't tell him, he has no influence in the party, has very little power, and he's okay with that. And I believe that is very likely too, right? Because he is basically he follows the GOP playbook. Whatever they tell him, whatever the agenda is, that's what he follows to a T. So I wouldn't be surprised if that was also the case. Either way, it's weak, right? So that's what happened in Monroe.
But to your point, though, when you say they fumbled it, I think that they were easily able to be called out because she was saying that the vote had already been cast when it hadn't been cast. So even though you have people on your side, you don't let that out of the bag while you're trying to give during the comment section before the actual vote. And then he is totally overstepping his bounds with making national politics completely local in a place they don't belong, right?
Yeah, that's why he was censured. He was censured last year for putting mayor on the mayor letterhead. Celebrating the overturning of Roe v. Wade. Which what does that got to do with Monroe? What do you control in the council of that? So stuff like that. But yes, to your point, as Miss Anthony was talking, she was basically saying as if they had already voted. So she knew she had the votes, but And it was like,
and he was allowed to call her out as well because everyone else was able to go along with the 1 extra year as though it was some sort of protective provision after the partisanship was announced. And he was also saying that, oh, well, it's a statewide trend. It's like, yeah, but you guys have a super majority that you've gerrymandered. Of course, it's a statewide trend in your favor.
Yeah. So I would say right now Monroe has a little bit of a circus going on, and they need to get it together. Period. But the mayor, when your leader is bringing this division to the community, to these meetings, and this incompetence and dishonesty, it doesn't surprise me that there's a little bit of a circus within the council itself. So he's just not a good leader. But anyways,
I just thought that I just want to comment on the idea that sometimes, and I think we do this as people who are not Republicans, we try to retrofit normalcy into what this movement is doing. And we'll say stuff like, what does national politics have to do with what's going on in Monroe, or, insert small rural city. And I try to remind people, this is a cultural movement, right? If they are not scaring people and pushing on culture war things, they have nothing to offer people. Right, like they use these things as cudgels and carrots and sticks to get people to either support them, to get attention. We live in an attention economy. That's what they're doing.
And it's completely one-sided. So if I want to go to my local Facebook page and talk about something that is a national issue, but we believe that it's a trickle down that will absolutely affect us at the local level, well, you have, let's say, MAGA moderators on that group saying, we don't talk about that here.
Right.
Well, excuse me, where else is the pushback supposed to happen? This is the digital town square, I thought.
Yeah. And just to piggyback off that one, or just one more piece there, is that, like, let's say you did want to talk about, like, oh, let's fixing, putting a new stop sign in or putting a new street light in. Like, that shit is boring to the people who actually want to use government, right? Because, and I'm gonna continually say this, like, the point of the Republican project is to convince people that the government cannot serve them. Stacey Abrams kind of just touched on that in that video. But the point of the entire Republican project for decades, this is not under Trump. This is why we got to stop saying MAGA. This is a Republican thing. Trump is a Republican president. There's a Republican Congress. It's not MAGA. They're not separating. No.
It's a perfect vehicle.
It's the same thing. This is a Republican strategy, is to make people believe the government does not work. So therefore, when it's taken away from them, they will not complain.
Yeah.
So what he does is he pushes on things that he knows that are touchstone issues, where that's all he got. He can't talk about any actual benefit he provides Monroe. So he has to say, well, I did this and I'm for life and I'm protecting kids.
So I think that this national politics is being brought down to the state and local levels, right? Because that's logically what's next. So I do think the fight, and we've talked about this before, has to be local, has to be at the state, because that's where they're bringing it to. And you see the type of rhetoric, you see the things that he's talking about, things that has no control over. And we talk about all the time the culture war issues. I agree with that. And I think, at the end of the day, he is, a white Christian nationalist, white supremacist. And sometimes it shows on his social media, especially his Twitter. Well, he tries to hide it. He goes to, he does his PR rounds, and, he'll take pictures with a few brown people. Yeah.
Right.
And he's got his little, his little token running around the council with his Mayor Robert Burns shirt on. So he's got his he does his political thing, but and I will say this, and ask you, Peyron, what your thoughts are. But like, this is these are two and a half, 3 Republicans, conservatives who were also voting against Burns and Dotson. So it's not necessarily just a Republican thing. I do think Republicans can become extinct, so they too are also fighting for what is Monroe. Like, I think that more of caring about the city than the actual culture wars that don't matter, talking about drag every single month and things like that. But it is a dying breed, and I don't think that those type of folks are necessarily doing enough, though. I was still surprised to see them kind of leading the charge for these
Yeah,
elections.
I would say, what I look at as someone who studies politics and history is you got to look at trends. You can't look at the exceptions. I think what happens to us on the left, progressive side, liberals, Democrats, whatever you want to call it, we sometimes get enraptured with the exceptions. We act like that then is over emphasizes what the Republican project is. These people who still voted against Mayor Burns because he is right inside of the crawl. You know how you get like a cut in your mouth and you're like, nah, you're gnawing at it. You get like a popcorn hull inside of a tooth, and like you're constantly looking at it. They don't mind if someone else chokes on popcorn somewhere down the road. They want that out of their tooth, right? So they're like, okay, this guy here personally, but they will still vote for Ted Budd. They'll still vote for Tom Tillis. They'll still vote for Donald Trump. And the reason why that matters to folks like who are more marginalized is that, like, for example, and we're not going to get into this today, but I'm going to just make a point of it. But like what happens federally then changes the way that I need to interact locally. So, for example, let's just say the Republican project, all the stars aligned, and they get birthright citizenship taken out, and all of a sudden, me now as someone who's on the front lines, and Rom, you're going up talking to Robert Burns to his face, we're no longer citizens. All of a sudden, the way we interact locally changes. So we can't just have this kind of lofty, grandiose idea of like, oh, well, that's national. Here is like, okay, what happens nationally matters because my citizenship is tied to that.
There's a trickle down that comes from the national to the state that we saw this week, luckily get struck down. Ron DeSantis was looking to have his own ICE squad at the Florida state level.
Yeah.
So they're trying to just basically just have their own cut of the pie and be able to fill their own jails with their own people and deputize anyone they want. So just one more layer of autocracy at a closer level.
What holds these states together is the federal government. And if the federal government doesn't tie these things together, then you do have an uncivil union. You do have, what they're trying to set up for is a civil war. Now, with that, like, there's a level of like, as we have people who have never had institutional power, the only thing that has ever kept us, I would say, for lack of better words, in check, is the fact that we have hope that we can make this thing better.
Yeah.
But if they want to apply pressure to the American citizens, I don't care, white, black, brown, trans, gay, immigrant, to the point where there's no more hope, they will find out quickly this is untenable. They cannot hold on to this.
Yeah. And you can see that in the Obama presidency, right? Because the crux of the Democratic idea was, let's make sure that we have this national party that everyone, like, people are worried that the whole trend of the nation was going towards the Democrats, but really we were just able to squeak out a couple of elections while they were doing the groundwork at the state and local level that then eats away at the bureaucracy at the federal level. So you go in there, you win an election, you screw everything up, and then you say, look how bad the government is.
There you go.
And you just made it rot from the inside.
Yeah, and I think states like North Carolina are true battleground in terms of like the balance hanging, literally by a thread in either direction, right? Because North Carolina is a state that votes more Democrat and still yet has more Republicans in state offices. That's because of gerrymandering. That's because of rules they've changed. That's because of how they gave power to other folks, to the state auditor instead of the governor on their way out when they had a supermajority they would not have had without gerrymandering. So, a Supreme Court that's lopsided also, because so all of these things can go. North Carolina can absolutely go red, and
that's right.
I would say there's a good chance that we, especially me and Peyron, could be fucked, and we probably need to get the fuck out of town, right? If we're being very honest. But because states like Tennessee and obviously the red states, there's not like that. That's a lost cause. I think Georgia's leans red a little bit, and all of these things, but all this stuff is going to come trickling. All these problems are going to come trickling down to the states themselves. Like, states are going to have to make up and fill in these gaps. And especially when we talk about FEMA, and I was thinking this the other day, and Josh Stein said it this week, like, why would every single state prepare for a natural disaster that may or may not happen that year? That makes absolutely no sense from an operational standpoint, right? From a financial standpoint, you mean to tell me you have to prepare for something that may or may not come from
Have all these
at a
trucks
state
gassed
level,
up.
at a state level, when you can have that at a national level and go and mobilize if and when it does
pivot.
happen in certain areas like that? That's logically how somebody would run any sort of good operation. But they're breaking it on purpose. So yeah, we got some topics to get in. We got some topics to get into tonight.
It's all about Republican efficiency today, folks. So if you want to hear about how good the Republican Party is at governing, you have tuned into the right episode.
The only thing they know how to do is be against something and tear things down, right? So that's the main thing.
Well, they're good at that.
So while we were on the show on Sunday, apparently we were doing the show, so we didn't know. But the Epstein files, they released the files, all
and the video,
and the video. They released it all finally,
everything.
But no, what really happened was they basically said that it's a nothing burger. There's nothing that exists. There's no black book. There's none of it ever happened. And he 100% killed himself. So remind
100%.
Epstein was in custody during Trump's first presidency, and here's the facts. Like, we've seen Trump in several pictures with Epstein. We know he said things about Epstein liking younger women, right? They party together. So
Epstein himself said Trump is my very best friend.
They've been like there several pictures, not just like one.
I never heard.
No, like countless. I mean, the kids were different. The kids were different ages, so this is over years and different. I mean, this is not no short. Like, he got photobombed.
So you're talking about more than likely an entire compromised cabinet in multiple ways in terms of these are people that can be blackmailed. That's why they got rid of vetting. These are people who have things held over their head, whether it's by Russia, whether it's somebody else. Like, these people have power over them, and I truly believe that Donald Trump was absolutely involved in all this stuff. And even when you see interviews, were you going to release that? Yeah, he says yes with confidence for every.
He was like question. Martin Luther King, absolutely. JFK, absolutely.
Yep.
What about Epstein? There's some folks out there that might not want to hear about that. I don't think anybody really cares about Epstein.
He said it was in the lives of really important people.
Come on.
So this is
folks running for president. Maybe.
This is a lawless man. He's a sick man. He's talked about his daughter in ways that, like, who talks about their daughter like that?
Right,
he's a sick person, right?
He said he said he gets to walk into dressing rooms of pageants that he owns because he's the owner of the pageant. I mean, stuff like that.
He's talking about, I hope my daughter has big boobs, and she was like 5 or not even born.
Like her mother.
So
he
thinks he can get away with. He thinks he can get away. He's above the law, and so far he is. And
proven correct.
That's because Republicans are running interference.
That's right.
And
not MAGA
for him.
Republicans.
And he's put in all of these loyalists and both incompetent, right? So Kash Patel has no business being the director of the FBI. Let's say that right now.
Wall-eyed Kash Patel.
Bongino,
his hairline. I mean, I know you guys are bald, but I'm just saying, but like Bongino's hairline.
I'm not pretending. I'm not.
He needs to let it go. His hairline is like.
Yeah.
Like, bro,
he's got a fresh lineup with a Sharpie every other day.
But it's like rounded too. Like, what is that, man?
Yeah, he's a meathead. So these are people. You see how they've changed their tune in terms of all of these things. Pam Bondi, hey, it's coming out, and next thing you know, there's nothing.
What's interesting? Well, and then we're gonna play the clip, but like what's interesting though is that like this was a animating force for his base. I think Don Jr. in 2023 was on stage at CPAC. And he was like, the Epstein files, all these Democrats are in the Epstein files, and I don't mind being on the list as long as I'm not on the Epstein list. And it's like,
but it's red meat that was already like chum in the water because QAnon was so big in Trump's initial presidency, and the whole backing of QAnon was how the Jews and the Democrats are sucking the blood of babies, like this totally classic anti-Semitic trope that then they were able to ride into the presidency. But real quick, the Epstein Victims Compensation Program was established by the Epstein estate. And there were approximately 225 applications for alleged victims. Now, of these, 150 were deemed eligible for compensation, with 138 individuals accepting payouts totaling approximately $125 million. Okay.
What?
And then I see a meme today or this week that just perfectly encapsulated, because it's Jill Zane Maxwell, and she's like, if there's no list, why am I in jail, buddy? What's going on?
She's in jail for trafficking nobody to nobody.
What are you paying for then?
That's crazy.
These are
go ahead, Ron.
No, go ahead.
And I think they think that their base is dumb enough, and I think this is one thing that their base. And I agree with Ron. Ron's very big on like Republicans gonna fall in line, Republican voters for damn sure, and I agree with that.
I was just a matter of time.
I agree with that. I absolutely agree with that. But I do think this will create enough friction of some voters and some actual influencers on the right. I think we have a few of those clips too, but that will at least have different narratives out there that will allow the kind of the separation. And again, they'll still fall in line, but then they're going to have the infighting. And the three of us and many millions of others will sit back and be like,
yeah, I think there's, I always kind of mention this, this like elusive 2 to 10%. There are people that literally just kind of go with the flow and they hear certain things.
Oh, but these aren't like swing voters though. These are like, I'm talking about MAGA people. These are like die in the wool. They're
I
like,
think MAGA's going to fall in line. I don't know what their marching orders are yet, but
people who are animated by like,
they'll find a way to
that's what I
fall
mean.
in line.
Like people who were like, oh, I'm voting because of Epstein. I'm voting for Donald Trump. Those people were not swing voters. Those were not like Democratic, disaffected people. Those were always
of a true believer.
Oh,
yeah.
God. And that Ozempic is working well for him. He's actually pissed off the people
coming in and being part of the cover-up. The Trump administration has become part of it. I mean, it's just you cannot see it any other way. So I just got to the office. So I'm gonna go throw up actually, and this only happens every few years when something really bad happens.
Why don't you feel bad?
I mean, I'm physically gonna puke probably right now. My mouth is watering right now. Because I have integrity. And
Integrity Farm.
I just really need the Trump administration to succeed and to save this country, and they're doing so much good. And then for them to do something like this tears my guts out.
Dude, you know what?
So now
I hate this man with like with hatred because of the way that he did Sandy Hook, right?
Sandy Hook.
Because I know we laugh and chuckle, but honestly, F this guy, because he is just as bad. Like literally, these are some of the worst men on earth. These Epsteins, the Alex Jones, the Donald Trump,
Schedule 1 societal poison.
Like, there's a reason why these people all, what birds of a feather flock together, right? So,
right.
To have any kind of idea that like Alex Jones and the Laura Loomers and all these POSs, Charlie Kirks are gonna not fall in line. Like, no, that's their agenda. They will sacrifice certain parts of whatever they believe to get through their agenda and what they want, right? They'll sacrifice little girls floating down a river as collateral damage to spite Mexicans and South Americans and whatever, right? So these are people.
Well, you hear him there in that clip. He's kind of like, even still giving Trump credit. Like, I want this administration to succeed, and like he's still doing it. To your point, like he's still throwing up, crying, and still sucking his dick all at the same time. I mean, that is like an amazing thing. That should be in a brothel in Tijuana at this point. The way he's so luxuriating.
But didn't you send me the clip about some person saying that if Trump sexually assaulted?
Yes, no, it's a tweet. It's a tweet. Here,
that's what I mean. But I mean, come on, dude, that was heavy to even see. Like that is
this is ludicrous. This is wild. I'm gonna read it real quick here. And someone's tweeting, I guess, at these like Republicans, and it's in all caps. They say, "Would you still support Trump if he raped your daughters?" And a guy named Brad T. Faciti, at Bad Faith Act is his name. He says this: "If Trump did that to my daughters, forgiving him would break me. But Jesus calls me to forgive as he forgave me. I need his strength every day. It would be the hardest, holiest act of love I could have ever chose. But I would still politically support him as my
That
president.
is insane. There's something wrong with these people. I mean, if it wasn't evident before, like I don't really know. Again, we're we're supposed to play kumbaya and try to rope these people.
Right.
Like, are we now that they feel this way? Are we supposed to rope this piece of shit in? Because like that's crazy.
You weren't about to forgive somebody for crossing the border to survive, but this
another. I saw another tweet, and I try not to put too much stock into these because some of them I don't know because they just seem so outlandish. But like I do think that like some of them you go through their history and it's like these people were actually real and had some and then they're talking about, well, I think that we have to just kind of look past it and forgive him for his involvement. It's very similar to what you read, right? So look,
but what pisses me off is the selective outrage. I mean, to RC's point, like, oh, you can't forgive an immigrant. You can't forgive, or I mean, and I'm not saying this is a sin or anything, but in their minds, I'm using their logic. You can't forgive a queer person. You can't forgive a trans person. You can't forgive, a black person that didn't shoot a cop, but the cop shoot. I mean, like, none of this, all this other shit is unforgivable. But that is how a cult works, is, within a religion, your savior dies for you. In a cult, you die for your savior. And that is exactly what this gentleman is saying. Brad T. Fakiti, I think is his name, is that he himself is like, look, I will sacrifice my own daughter. We all have daughters. I would kill Donald Trump. Like, if he raped my daughter, are you out of your mind? Like, what? Like, this whole, like, I would still be like that. What did I say a few episodes ago, Ron? These are the most submissive men.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was just thinking. Like this is, yeah. I mean,
pathetic.
Even like
pathetic.
and it doesn't even hold a candle. But like Ted Cruz, he's called his wife ugly. He talked about he talked about Mark.
His dad killed JFK.
He called him Lady Lindsay. All of these men are some of the weakest men you'll come across, and these are supposed to be the alpha men of the world. Get the out of here, man! Like. This whole thing is
and none of them would bust a grape in a fruit fight. I mean, even if we look at Robert Burns with his thick, bulging neck and his face turning all red, like, dude, you can tell you ain't never been in a fight. You can tell you've never been in a fight.
He skips leg day. He's probably got some little chicken.
Oh, absolutely, no question, no question.
So here we are.
That's a good opener. So Epstein, the right, they're trying to figure it out. Tucker Carlson's up there. He had a guy, and I thought he made a good point. Again, I'm not agreeing with Tucker Carlson, but it's happening too frequently in 2025. Where I'm like, I'm sending it to y'all like this. It's a decent clip. I'm like, God damn it, because I know he's a white supremacist Nazi. And I'm staying on message that I agree with Ron's point. They'll fall in line. They will vote for him again for a third term. I'm not saying any of that, but. The fact that what the guy he was talking to said that this is a sign to people inside of that inner circle within the Epstein files to be like, look, the U.S. government will protect you. And don't forget that Jeffrey Epstein is connected to Mossad.
Yeah.
So Ghislaine Maxwell's dad was like one of the founders of Mossad. Like,
that's a good point because
they have honeypots all the time.
Yeah, that's a good point because it's not just, I don't think it is black and white. It's just Trump. I think there is a lot of other.
Come on.
There's a lot of names in there with billionaires because you think he was invited? You think he was inviting Joe Schmo off the street?
I mean, and just like powerful people or like celebrities. Like, I mean, Chris Tucker was on Lolita Express.
Yeah.
Come on, man! Rush Hour 1.
Okay. Well, I don't know about that.
I'm just saying.
I haven't heard that.
Oh yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But,
Ever heard Chris Tucker impression?
Well, Chris Tucker, he had to respond to it. And he was like, well, I didn't know who he was, man. Man, first of all, come on.
So
look,
but yes, powerful people. Here's the thing: there's some powerful people.
Then you go.
Yeah, the powerful people in powerful places have influence, and that blackmail is the norm within this administration. So
come on,
it has no surprise to me. I know some people are trying to connect Netanyahu coming over into it. I don't know. I don't even think it even matters if. It matters. It matters, but I'm just saying that there's more than just a single person at play. In my opinion,
no. Well, I think what it shows is that it shows that these are systems.
Mm-hmm.
These are systems that are not controlled by any border. They are not in the range of any certain government. but it is of the oligarchical wealth class, and how they're able to do the most heinous things and get away with it, while you have to pay for a speeding ticket. You have to go to jail for stealing $1,000 out of the cash register. But these people can literally rape children,
Yeah.
and they get to get away from it. So like there is
And-
a. It's not, go ahead, sorry.
No, I was just saying, their argument is they'll argue, and I know you had a good point, so I'm sorry for interrupting.
No.
About to cook.
No,
but,
look, we just trying to we're trying to understand this shit, y'all.
But here's
I
one more.
think the veil has failed.
But they'll a lot of these people on the right will say, "Well, Bill Clinton's in it," and da da da.
Okay,
all right,
fuck him.
bye.
Right.
Like lock him up too. Throw away
Get
the
him the fuck
key.
out of here.
Like, we don't.
To God, right? I don't want to hear that both sidesism out of that dude. Like he's like, oh, what are you gonna do now, Democrats? Charlemagne.
Right? Oh God.
You know what I mean? Like I'm
so tired of him like both sides in the
yes.
Both sides to death. Like
the Democrats need to just stop
like,
being Democrats.
Like I'm sorry, you named one Democrat and then you went on to the British royal family.
Right.
Worried about any of these people?
Donkey of the days of Democrats for not calling out Bill Clinton. First of all, fuck Bill Clinton. Okay.
Yeah.
So like I don't give a fuck. Like he's an old man who did a lot of bad shit too. And again, we are talking about trying to change something that has always, again, we are on a bullet train. And America has always been a bullet train since it was established. So acting like I'm ahead of the bullet train, now black guys ahead of the bullet train is constantly running over people no matter who's in charge of it. And I think that's the point of it doesn't matter if it's a Democrat or Republican. Inside of this is power. We're seeing power consolidated and power overemphasized. And that should scare us to be like, okay, and hopefully people on the right do I have much, faith that people on the right will eventually come to their grips? No. But I mean that's on them.
Power and running over people is our ICE segue. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So well, ICE has been active for many months now, but they have now infiltrated the U.S. military, more specifically the Marines, where they are now guarding Marine bases, protecting Marine bases. The ISIS. So
ISIS.
Yeah, yeah. Basically,
it's the second
White
ISIS. The second ISIS that we funded. There we go.
I did not see that coming.
Yikes! See this? We had the little soundboard.
Yeah, but where we talk. There's so much to talk about here. I honestly.
So yeah,
MacArthur Park is a good place to start.
Yeah, let's start MacArthur Park, and then we'll pull back out to the more wider view. Here we go. So, folks who are just listening in, we're looking at footage of it's sped up, but of MacArthur Park on July 7th, and it is, these totally kitted out military style ICE agents rolling up.
Back, and they were also doing what's called Hands Across America formation. Linking arms over Red Rover. Let anybody come over, and we're going to shoot.
I don't know if you noticed how much militarized they became in the past week. They went from something I could throw on to having pretty much they look like the military. Full body armor, full helmets,
the little goggles,
guns, guns out, assault.
And mind you, this park was known, according to them, it was a park that was a MS-13 hotbed. And if you look at the park, there's like 8 soccer goals, and they said this is where a lot of kids practice soccer. It's where a lot of migrant kids practice soccer, but not MS-13. And it's really disgusting because in the military, they have these things called, I guess, mission dossiers or mission documents. And it basically writes down, like, what is the objective of the mission. And in it, it just said, this is basically a show of force. There's, of course, more verbiage than that. It didn't just say show of force. But the fact that the primary objective was the show of force really shows that this is not any sort of a peacekeeping mission or any sort of a civic peaceful show of force. This is just really
probably have
show of force.
A interdepartmental acronym that just spells out FLEX, right?
Right. And so then Karen Bass, if you guys are just watching, we're showing clips of her. She went down to MacArthur Park and basically said, you guys have to leave. And then one of the guys says, "Can I have my phone back from her?" It just shows like from the
We have
top.
to go. We have to go.
Well, it just shows like from the top of ICE, Tom Homan and the other guys, those other like deputy secretaries down like to the bottom. There's a lot of like loose string. For the fact that the guy be like, "Can I have my phone back?" Like these are unserious people. These are not people who are dedicated to either military expertise or any sort of law enforcement. These are literally, "Can I have my phone back,
Or
please,
code of
Miss
conduct.
Mayor?" Huh?
Or code of conduct. Like if you
Right.
think about, I mean, maybe how shady your average repo man is, and that's going to be the next ICE deputy on the streets
There
who
you go.
wants carte blanche to do whatever he wants. Like you're a car that's about to get put the hook on.
Yeah.
That's what it's going to look like.
We're working with Pawn Stars over here, folks. Pawn Stars.
Best I can do is a bullet to the eye.
Best I can do is infringing on your civil rights for Donald Trump. Sorry, I mean that's what we're working with here.
Yeah.
And I was listening to a guy. There's a media outlet out of LA called LA Taco. And LA Taco, their name is LA Taco, so they actually do reporting on what's going on in LA with police and whatnot, and they also do reporting on tacos. So they do two things. You can go to lataco.com, they have all their things. But they were talking about how in Mexico, in their newspapers, they're constantly talking about that they're expecting this influx of migrants, and they're like, where are the migrants? So it just goes to show that these private detention facilities have a financial, benefit, right? Because if you're going to pay me $450 a head, per person to keep someone here for X amount of time per day, that is pretty lucrative. And as we talked about, I think in a previous episode, they always want to go back to slavery. This is the game. The game is not to send these people away. The game is to take them where they're from, send them somewhere else. Say you have no connections. You have no idea how to call your wife and family and kids somewhere. We don't know. We're not going to tell you what state you're in. But to survive, you have to work in these fields.
It's a win-win. It's the industrial complex because one, somebody has to pay to take care of these to house these people. So I saw somewhere it's like $150,000 a year for one person. So that goes from taxes.
Company
is
going to make a lot of money,
right? So that goes from our taxes to pay to fund all of these private organizations, all these people who basically have connections, right? These are all no bid contracts. They've automatically got these things, and then they're taking these people and basically making them work. I saw a story. They're making them work 6-8 hours a day to get one phone call. $1 for a phone. $1.
That's right.
That's called that's slavery. Right. So that's where we're at. And
but also, okay, so the ICE budget, right, is now 4 times the Marines budget.
I think 3 times. I think the Marines budget is 57 billion, and now ICE is 150.
Yeah. So, all right, that is just amazing when you think about the scope and the capability of the effing Marines. And then you think about 3 times as much firepower being turned inward. What do you think that looks like? Okay. And then when their totally inept mission is complete and they've gotten everybody that they said they were going to get, and then they're bored and they're sitting there with their guns in the hands and the cells are empty or whatever.
It won't be.
Where are they going to go next? Where do they go next?
To the point that Ram just brought up, that it's an industrial complex. All industrial complexes eventually, from jump, but eventually, to your point, RC, when they get to that point where it kind of slows down, they always have to, they always have to restate why they exist, right? They have to come up with a reason why they exist, right? Oh, the prison in the late 70s started to have less people in them. Okay, you have the war on drugs, right? Like you have to create a reason of why you exist, right? The military industrial complex is we're always destabilizing. There's 800 military bases around the world that we're in. No other country has that many military bases, right? Like it's us, so it's this idea where they say that fascism is just colonialism, turned inward. And that's what it is. The same shit we were doing to other countries, destabilizing, occupying, it's coming home to roost. Yeah. And a lot of us, the folks that have studied this history or have lived this history or have had ancestors that have told us this history, this is something that has been happening here for a long time. It's just now being on Front Street for a lot of people that never thought it would come to their front door.
Yeah, and so a lot of people still I don't think most Americans don't realize the gravity of the situation. All these people who talk about, oh well, how did slavery happen? How did segregation happen? How did the Holocaust happen?
That's right.
We're in it, right? And so
Right.
it would take. I think it would if a lot of more people just spoke up and did more, just the little things, right? As
Come on.
opposed to just going about your day like, politics. I don't really do politics. What's not Stephen Miller, Stephen
It's
A.
on
Smith.
Netflix.
What's Stephen A. Smith talking about sports? What's his political view on Democrats are
Yeah.
doing that? No, like, if that's the extent of your politics, or Joe Rogan, and you don't want to actually pay attention, and even Joe Rogan is kind of
I mean, but to your point, Ron, we can't forget that, like, we like to bring up Nazi Germany a lot. That, like, by the time the gas chambers were erected, or by the time the concentration camps were erected, we're already at the concentration camps point. We're like, fascism happened. That, like, no, there was years of seeding the ground and priming the minds of Germans, um,
And I was
and
saying, guys,
and Americans. Sorry,
like Anne Applebaum, who is fantastic,
I loved
and
her book. Loved her
I
book.
mean, she studies autocracy from the inside of these places like Poland and
Hmm.
Hungary and everything.
Yeah, she
And on
does.
a recent interview with, I believe, the Times, she was saying that she can't believe how fast and expedient everything has been. And like something like Doge, where you were able to come in and have this interdepartmental, like, complete blitzkrieg from day one, and how they're militarizing at such a fast pace that even compared to other autocratic governments and movements, this has been an accelerated pace.
yeah. I'm gonna play
But even then, like, because even I'm sorry, I bet just real quick, just to respond to that. Even I read her book like 4 years ago, and like one thing that, like, when I was reading it, I was like, she's a very smart person, not knocking it at all. I think she's smarter than me. She's worldly. I think her husband's Polish. She's conservative. So when people hold conservative ideologies, even in the lightest sense, they are usually blocking off a lot of critical nuanced thinking. So, like, when she was saying, like, how Russia is very similar to how America tries to be a Christian nation, but in reality, most Russians, like 99% of Russians, do not go to church, and most Russians don't even own a Bible. But like how Americans, we believe that we're Christians, but most Americans don't go to church. Most Americans don't read the Bible. But like, as I was like reading the book, I remember being like, she also doesn't realize a lot of people have been telling America and herself, because she was like a Reaganite and all these things back in the day, like he was a fascist, right? He kind of helped kick it off into overdrive. So that's why, to the point where we're like, how fast it's happened. It's not. It's kind of like, I forget who was the quote, but like, going bankrupt. It happened slowly, then all at once. Like, fascism is like that, but certain people have had to live under the boot of that for centuries, where we're like, hey, this place is going to collapse. It's held up on a lot of bullshit, a lot of lies, a lot of death, a lot of monopolized violence,
And,
and it
and to
cannot
your point,
sustain
to
itself.
reframe that, the motive is not new. Just the action and the acting has now been, the floodgates have been opened, especially because of the Supreme Court and all these decisions on executive power and
It's
how
just been
quickly.
expanded. It's been
Yeah,
expanded.
it's rapid fire.
Because,
Yeah,
like, I mean, if we're being honest, like, most Supreme Court decisions are not good. I think we know, like, some stellar ones, and that's meant to really indoctrinate us into believing that that's a good institution that we need to keep. That we have these 9 wizards in black robes that honestly, every year, dating back decades, if you guys read all the, like, the dockets of their final
Deliberate
rundowns, like,
disappointment.
they're always terrible. They're always taking shit
yeah.
away for decades.
Well, I think
But we're like, we got to respect the Supreme Court.
I,
Fuck the Supreme Court. We need to get rid of that institution.
as I said on Sunday, I do think I think probably need to start imagining a world where the Constitution, as we know it today, doesn't exist, and it could be the silver lining. I think,
Right.
unfortunately,
And rewritten.
there's going to be a period of time where it's going to be very dark. But
Yes.
when something is rebuilt and something comes about, that Constitution is what, 250 years old, so it's ancient, right? And you talk about
It's fresh.
That ain't
what's his name?
That's a
Mystical.
baby. That's a baby. We are a baby country.
We
And
are.
Frederick Douglass
It's
said
the
this
end of the empire.
on his famous "What is the Fourth of July to a Slave," where he says that, and then he wrote this at the time the United States, I think, was like maybe 70 years old, but he was like, we are a baby compared to. He said most nations count themselves in thousands of years. Most empires count themselves. Like, we are still, and he said that's good that we are a baby state, because that means that we can change who we are. Now that was well over 100 years ago, and America has not changed that much as it relates to what it means for people who are in the undercast.
Yeah.
So that to go back to my original point, that like this has been happening, the crumbling's been happening, and now all they can do is use all that power, force, and militarization back on their own people.
Yeah. So, and when people talk about, we also call it alligator Auschwitz, and compared to concentration camps. I want to play this quick clip because I think people have this idea that like it just all of a sudden, these concentration camps in Auschwitz just all of a sudden started just putting people straight into the gas chamber. Like it didn't start off that way. Like,
Nope.
it started off with everything that happened during Trump's term, just FYI.
Oh,
And
nice.
and it started off with getting rid of immigrants. Right, was the how it started? Not started, but like leading up to
That's where it went.
Camps.
It's the same telltale signs.
Kids in cages.
But here, I want to play this because this is from
Kids in cages.
It's no big deal that they are kidnapping people and transporting them to concentration camps, both domestic and foreign. That is
I
not.
think that's kind of insulting to.
I think it's
Jewish
insulting what they're
Holocaust
doing.
survivors.
It is not insulting to Jewish. I find it insulting that you could even fix your mouth to defend this disgusting
gas
behavior.
ovens at these?
It's not a death
It
camp.
doesn't matter. It's a concentration camp what they're doing, and they are disappearing people, claiming that these are people who have committed the most harsh crimes. But according to the reporting, less than 10% of these people have committed harsh crimes. So to do the victim Olympics and decide who had it worse, I can tell you, I can participate in that too. And everybody who says, "Oh, this is not the America I know," I can guarantee you, it is the America I know. Can I finish my point, please?
Yes.
We are the fact that we're presenting this like it's political fodder, that a government agency is disappearing people. It is not a political point. It has nothing to do with Jewish people, because despite the fact that 20% of immigrants in this country are white, we do not see white people getting carted off to concentration camps. So if we can just focus on the people who are harmed the most by this, and not make yourself or somebody else the center of attention, when that's not who's getting impacted by this.
Jewish, but I'm saying,
or anyone else the center of attention.
But yeah.
Real quick. I'm gonna read this real quick. A place where large numbers of people, especially political prisoners or members of persecuted minorities, are deliberately imprisoned in a relatively small area with inadequate facilities, sometimes to provide forced labor or to await mass execution. That is the definition of a concentration camp. And
So
one thing,
they
but
got
one thing,
a concentration camp and a death camp.
but one thing I always want to remind people of, because due to our indoctrination here in the United States of America, we only locate concentration camp into one small moment of time, and then that's the only way we can understand it. But I want to remind people, enslaved people were in concentration camps. I'm going to read that definition one more time. Think about what a plantation is. That's why I don't call them plantations. I call them concentration. I'm going to read it one more time. And think of all the memories, or not memories, none of us are alive, but think of all the imagery we have of plantation. I'm going to read it one more time. A place where a large number of people, especially political prisoners or members of persecuted minorities, are deliberately imprisoned in a relatively small area with inadequate facilities, sometimes to provide forced labor or to await mass execution. So that is, we have to unlearn what we've learned. And that white lady who was talking to Tiffany Cross is absolutely trying to believe the lie that this vileness was only a small moment of time in world history, not an ongoing barrage of state-sanctioned violence against people who were deemed to be on the outs. Because once we start to do that, then we start to exceptionalize ourselves. And America is very good at exceptionalizing itself.
They did that with the Japanese. The United States did it with the Japanese too, and several groups.
Correct. But the reason I'm going to just edge my point one more time, a quarter of a millennium.
Yeah, it's a very small.
Okay, so I'm not taking it away from Jewish people, I'm just saying, like, this is a long pattern and practice of the United States of America. So before we're like, oh, it happened here, then no, listen, we were built on this joint. Okay, America was built off that labor, and that labor made it a superpower financially. It's what built Wall Street, because they backed the securities of the enslaved, the people, because they insured the people, and they backed the wealth they produced.
That's right. It turns out that back then, New York was not all about that abolition.
No. No, this country ain't about the abolition. That's why slavery is still legal. If my son was in here, I would ask him like, because I always try to show him. I say, Ethan, is slavery illegal? And he always says no. And then I say why, and he says because of the 13th Amendment, Dad. So I've taught my son well
And
because it says if you commit a crime, not a violent crime, not if you killed a politician, any crime. And that's when they created
and
vagrancy law. They had the black codes. They put us back into basically bondage, and they had convict leasing, which is slavery by another name.
yeah,
We got to get it
and
right. We got to get it right,
and
folks.
you got to realize that the people that are in here, they're not criminals, hardened, violent criminals. These are people who I think what they call like civil offense. If you're just, even if you're here, and a lot of these people have residency. They have paper. They have their
They don't give a damn about that
visas.
shit.
Yeah, and that's what people need to wake up. And I go back to what Gavin Newsom talking about. This is a distraction. Really, dude? I said it then, and now you it's that was the issue, and it continues to be the issue, in my opinion, because we have this is the worst. This is the worst thing that can happen. And it only gets worse from here, right? And it's people start to, die and disappear and all of these things and be turned into slaves. It's
Yeah.
not. It wasn't a distraction then, and it's not a distraction now. You have California literally being taken over by this
Occupy.
new military force called ICE, that's supposedly protecting us. Meanwhile, who's going and rescuing people in Texas?
But do you have that clip? Shout out to the Haitians. You see that clip?
Yeah, standing up in the hood.
Shout out to the Haitians.
That looked good. That was real good.
That was they
There.
summoned the energy of Toussaint Louverture, okay, down in the Haitian Revolution.
Is that
They
is
said,
that
"You
real?
shall not."
Was that real?
What is? Yeah, they was whooping
Was it
ass. They was like,
video?
"Let me get some. Let me get some."
Well,
I don't know if they was conjuring up with some hoodoo like Annie on Sinners, but they definitely was conjuring up some ass whooping.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say that James Hawkins, Democrat from Massachusetts, finally put forth a bill saying that not identifying yourself and having a mask on while operating in a tactical police manner is illegal now. So
Right.
they're trying to actually get that put forth finally. Like, can we have at least the basics where, because people there's like a how much $1 million lawsuit against the wrongful imprisonment of Khalil, right?
Yeah,
I mean, so, there could be blowback.
I'll say this too. Look, moving forward, if you're a Democrat, you better be running on abolishing ICE. Because by the time, and we're only 6 months into this administration, by the time we get to midterms, they keep talking, we only care about midterms. Y'all ain't doing shit right now.
Not gonna have them.
So if you are not actively saying, I am trying to stop this shit, because it's gonna get worse, it's gonna get more bloody, people are gonna die, and we're gonna see what we've been seeing in Gaza, we're gonna see that here.
Yeah.
We've already seen it. We've already seen the same technology used to identify people, which they used in Gaza, which a lot of us leftists have been warning about. If you are not speaking up then, it will be used on us, and it's happening now. Less than 2 years. It hasn't even been 2 years yet. So we got to be ready for the same technology, the Where's Daddy, Lavender, Palantir backed technology to identify us and to kill us.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why we have to have global solidarity with anybody that's oppressed, because they can teach us the same way they taught us to, kick back CS canisters and how to, clean our eyes out during pepper spray after Mike Brown, because it's the same tactics.
Yeah, this is an example. Gonna go back to the video here, but this is kind of what I was talking about on Sunday in terms of like community, like, because when I was in Chicago, I remember during Black Lives Matter and that, like, I would just ride my bike or walk over to a protest, and we would just be walking through the streets, and that was that. And there was certain things that like this, like to go outside and protect. Like if somebody comes to my doorstep, like that's like here, I'd be like, I'll be there in 20. Come on, people. Some people be like, okay, well, yeah, or even in
coffee
Charlotte,
first.
like, in Charlotte, like, oh, I should spot it, like,
Pick you up,
what you gonna do? Run over there? So, like, and that's the thing is, like, kind of just we're in certain areas,
Well,
demographics are spread out, and it's like, well, how do we, combat this?
Right. And I think looking at this video too, I mean, and you know how they like to demonize groups of people, MS-13, you know, the Chicago, where you're from. I don't know how you made it out, brother. The way they talk about Chicago, I don't know how you don't have a bullet in your head. But we forget gangs themselves were literally created for this exact purpose.
For
Gangs
protection.
them
That's right.
it was to protect because they knew they didn't have protection from the state because the state was now of course then you get into lack of resources and you get to domination. So yes, it
Just
eventually
look up
does
the
become
Rampart
corrupted.
District.
Yeah, Chicago has
I mean,
a history of the gangs. You're right, like has an actual, what I'll call a
yeah,
rich history of being in the community. That's
yep,
not, unfortunately, that's
Crips
not
and
what we're listening for
Bloods.
anymore. But
You're
Ice
right,
Lords
right.
and gangster disciples.
That's
The
right.
young lord, the young lords were white, but
Yeah,
Latino. But all of these groups, the Latin Kings, like all of them, and
yep.
that's what they were protecting the community, and for many years, that's how the primary objective. Even when there was organized crime taking place, and for whatever reason, I think at certain points in history, those things existed to actually support the community, to actually have an opportunity to make money. I'm not saying that selling drugs to the community or whatever else was happening was the right thing. However, it was means to an end, and
That's right.
there used to be rules. And I don't want to go off too much on a tangent. There used to be unspoken. Well,
No,
there
I'm saying the
actually used to
history
be
of it all.
spoken. Yeah, I know. And I kind of going off on a tangent, but it's
No,
unfortunate.
yeah.
But even in Chicago, when I was growing up as a kid, I remember they say on chief, and you weren't allowed to if somebody wasn't about that life, leave old people alone.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's a much different situation. But I would love to see some of that come back and actually mobilize and protect the community, because ultimately this is going to come to various communities. Obviously, they're heavily in Hispanic communities right now, or immigrant communities like Haitians, but it's coming. You think that Trump doesn't have a vendetta against the groups that voted 92%, 80% against him?
Come on.
We're further down on the list because you look at the Haitians, and I think a lot of Latinos feel like that they can still play by the rules. They could go back to their immigration hearings, and it's a dice shoot right now, right? That you may or may not, and if you getting gripped up, then you may not ever see the United States again. You may not ever see your family again. You don't know.
Right.
You might actually die in custody. So I think people need to.
And if the media doesn't cover it, that person disappeared. You know what I mean? Like the reason we knew Mahmoud Khalil is because the media covered it, because but now there's like a million Mahmoud Khalils, right? Like there's so many people that have already been lost to the annals of history, unfortunately. So and I think the reason why we're, to your point, Ram, about we're just this list of people. It's the Martin Niemöller poem. Like we're just getting close to the bottom of that list. First they came for. I just know the goddamn poem. That's why I realize we have to have solidarity with the first people when they're making fun of trans people and when they're making fun of the wokers and the DEIs and the immigrant. Like we have to be in solidarity with all those up and down. Not saying you have to personally be those people, but you have to understand, once you allow the state to harm somebody, you're saying, well, they can hurt those people because religiously, I think, if they blow up an abortion clinic, I don't believe in abortion. So therefore, that's kind of okay. And the right does that. So, but I kind of also agree with that. That's okay. Once you start to sanction yourself, what Stacey Abrams said, the permissive nature of personal violence, then you're opening up for that to happen to you. You cannot allow the state to actually judicially harm or go after or persecute anybody, because once you give them that power, they will eventually use it on you. To RC's point earlier, once they run out of people to lock up and kill, who's next? Yeah. Which goes back to the Martin Niemöller poem. First they came.
That is a selective application of morality, right?
Yes.
Especially when it doesn't hit home, it makes it that much easier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So a couple things. Yeah, a couple.
We're blue dot. So it's the isolation is like Rom. What you're saying is it's a lot easier to go get a bunch of Democrats, because obviously he has said he hates all Democrats.
He did say that.
if you can go find them in bunches, us on the outskirts in the hinterlands, we're down the list a little bit, but we're on the list nonetheless.
If Biden or Obama said, "I hate all Republicans,"
oh God,
it would still be the top story.
Do you remember when he said that when he was still before Kamala got in?
Which one?
He said, I mean, it was I thought it was honest, but he was like, they're like garbage people. It was like right after, and remember, it was like right before the assassination. Yeah. And they were like, oh my God, bro. And this is why.
And they started dressing up as garbage people.
Yes, that's right. They were fucking garbage bags. Yes, they're like, well, if Donald Trump is trash, I'm his trash. I'm not frozen. It's just I have to pause. I just gotta pause. Like what?
So yeah, that's what we're dealing with. It's fine. It's fine because you're like one of the only few people on Earth that I actually hate Trump. So anyways, there's a couple.
And the last thing I'm saying, I'm sorry, and I know we move on. I know we run along here, but like. That's why I can't stand like the Joe Scarboroughs or like these, Jake Tappers of the world. And because when they talk about this lost Republican Party, they usually always have like this faux fawning over like, oh, I can't believe they're doing this. But then anytime a Democrat does something, it's like these asshole Democrats. And like that is how you get this faux both sidesism. Right? It's like, oh, I mean, I wish they can go back to a time of Reagan, but Reagan wasn't fucking racist to my grandparents. My grandmother used to tell me shitty stories about Ronald Reagan because she grew up in the areas that he defunded. But not grew up, but she lived in areas.
It might as well be a slippery slope to Stalinism.
Yeah, I mean, if any time someone on the left just gives a light critique or is like, man, that's kind of shitty, those people did that. Can you believe that guy took a hammer to Paul Pelosi's head? Oh, look at that. The left out here making fun of David DePape. David DePape was just a guy with a hammer trying to find a nail. It's like, oh my God.
Yeah, so before we switch topics, I just want to highlight something because I do think it's important, but because I don't, it's not as... benign as many want you to believe. You have ICE who are largely untrained, going to marine bases to protect marine bases who are trained to protect bases around the world in various war zones.
Yeah.
It's lethal force.
But now all of a sudden
this makes sense.
Now all of a sudden ICE is protecting the Marines, literally the most elite, considered by many, it's one of the most elite forces,
the most lethal, right?
In the United States. So,
James Bond, here's your keystone.
We're basically one step away from these people being military, just considered military. The lines are blurred between both of these groups.
Yeah.
And I honestly, like, look, there's another story. The ICE, they're feeling their morale is down under despair. I do believe that there's probably a lot of folks that were part of ICE. They're just following orders, which I think is not anything to be proud of.
Hannah Arendt said something about that.
But the Marines also, I don't think that they're in lockstep with this administration. But if they're just going to continue to follow,
well, I don't know. Pete Skeet Keg Breath says that they're down. So we gotta give him his a bottle for that.
Okay, and just because you mentioned it, Hannah Arendt, fantastic new documentary on PBS, available right now, American Masters, until the 25th of the month. So check that out.
I'm gonna check that out. But like, can you imagine like a guy this like, I work Target security, and I don't get enough action.
There's been reports with Rogan where he's a mall cop and he kills somebody and he's a demented outlook on life, but he is a protector, man. He believes.
Well, that's what they want. They want the actual flunkies because even the military has a psych exam, right? And so there's certain things that like. Did like, oh, you didn't get into the police academy, you didn't pass the police academy,
You're
like,
a washout.
and these guys, you think these small cops, these you think that who do you think is signing up to join ICE now that they need, what is it, 80,000 more agents? And who do you think is going to lower the bar?
10.
Because they want murderers, they want people who are
Right.
ready to kill somebody, they want somebody who has no morals whatsoever, and I think it'll backfire, but that's what they're going to get, and that's what we're going to see, unfortunately. Like, all these people with low morale and ready to stand up, unfortunately, they're just going to push you out.
What's one of the most singular moments in American history? Kent State. Kent State was the National Guard, who is extremely well trained, and that was a couple of students. Okay, I'm not demeaning their lives or their sacrifices or anything.
Right.
But you're going to have way more cases done by far less trained individuals. And what's it going to take for this country to wake up? How many deaths will it take?
I don't know, because we watch Sandy Hook, we watch and they didn't care. We watch, we see these girls floating down a river, and
we saw Las Vegas
to absolve
Oh my God, dude!
The amount of violence, the tolerance of violence, the level of tolerance that America has for violence, the only way that it would happen is if a gay Muslim infiltrated ICE and then
trans, gay, black,
whatever,
Muslim,
the worst
a black
boogeyman.
Muslim trans woman who's non-binary and also differently abled, who speaks Spanish.
Did I send you that Kids in the Hall clip, or did you see that too?
Because they will sacrifice them.
There's a Kids in the Hall clip that talks about they were doing an art class where some woman was posing naked, and someone stands up and said, "This is bullshit. I don't feel like I'm being represented. There's able-bodied people up here." And then the black lady comes up. She's like, "Well, this is just a white archetype." And then I forget the end of it. He's like, "Well, there was a black, like, whatever. I couldn't find him. They're really tough to find." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Representative person is really hilarious and 25 years old.
Yeah, I used to love Kids in the Hall, but like what really grinds my gears about all these ICE LARPers is that, like, these are people that don't swear an oath to the Constitution. These are people that do not go through any sort of formal training. These are people that we do not know who they are, and I'm supposed to sit here and listen to Donald Trump and Christie, and Democrats too. They're like, these are federal agents. They are not, because federal agents are in a database, and we know who they all are. Again, they have to swear an oath to the Constitution. Not saying that's some sort of holy grandiose thing, but at least there's there's a paper trail, right? So, like, in Teron's point, what he just made, that, like, these guys are feeling sad, and, like, I don't give a fuck if you're feeling sad. Like, feel sad. This is what I mean. I know that for example, the IOF has the highest suicidal ideation rates out of any military in the world. I don't give a shit about that. So I say, but I don't give a shit about if you're in ICE and you're feeling sad and you need to quit quit your fucking job. Like, have a moral stance. So I'm not going to sit here
as a community on them. Shame on them. I was talking with I was corresponding with the local indivisible heads or whatever, and they're talking about how they're going to have their next thing here and their next thing there. I'm like, all right, so when are we going in front of DHS? We know where it's at. It's right there in the middle of town. I'm sorry, it's not the biggest cross section of people because it's over on Tryon or whatever, but you go to the heart of it and you put up shame right in their face, and maybe it'll have 2 or 3 people rethink what they're doing, and they'll talk to their friends and be like, hey guys, what the F are we doing here?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Well, it's the same thing we brought the last episode. It's like you have to animate your base to persuade everybody else, not try to be like, well, ICE actually has some good perspectives, and as a Democrat, I think ICE helps. Like that, when you see that fucking ground to these people who are literal Gestapo, like, then you're on the side of the Nazis. If you want to run again, you have to be against ICE. Sorry.
We've already seeded the ground when they basically stopped talking about abolishing ICE before. Like, when people were trying to abolish ICE before, and what happened? Look where we're at right now. So, and there's going to be a lot of martyrs, like who didn't ask to be martyrs. Unfortunately, people will die, and honestly, there will be violence. I don't see how
there will absolutely
some sort of civil war. I'm not saying that it's going to be a bunch of blue coats and red coats, but it's going to. I don't see how it ends without
violence.
So, yes, and what that turning point will be for the American consciousness to change the opinion to enough to where it's enough to get these people out of office. I don't know I have no idea what it looks like, right? Because these people
the lines of communication might be cut, and you might never be able to reach that critical mass.
That might actually happen too, right? And so there's a lot of unknowns. Like I have no idea what it looks like. We're about to find out, and I hope that this hurricane season just doesn't hit. And I hope that
it will.
But unfortunately, hope is that that gift and the curse, right? Hope is not gonna hope and prayer is not gonna get us out of the situation that this administration has dug us into, where FEMA's not ready to mobilize. You don't have competent people running FEMA. Remember, Bush has already done this. They gutted it. They had incompetent people then, and they learned. The United States learned from their mistakes. Barack Obama, and they improved FEMA over the last 20 years, right, or 15 years. So that is gone again, and we're gonna have to learn the hard way. We learn what happens when they deregulate.
But the thing is, Ron, we've already learned that you're saying we, and I comment this almost every damn day on somewhere on social media.
And don't stop.
It is not us. It is not the three of us. It is not Democrats. It is the Republican voters. We can blame Trump. We can blame Tom Tillis. These people do not fall into office. People vote for them. People give them their power of their singular vote because they are empowered by hate, rage, disinformation, because they want to believe those lies. That is not my fault. I too was lied to. The three of us were lied to. So this whole idea of like, oh, Republicans are lied to, so therefore we got to cut them some. I was lied to. RC was lied to. Rom, you were lied to. Our wives were lied to. Our children are currently being lied to. So the idea that this is some sort of a great equalizer, and therefore we have to give them this excuse out of this shit, it is them. It is the Republican base. It is their fault. And I mean, we're at a point where, like, look, people are like, we saw in Texas, we saw in New Mexico, we saw in Durham, North Carolina, like, not even the most violent style of violence, but that's also a form of violence, legislative incompetence, right? Rom, you always talk about that when you bring this up to Bobby Burns, that he's incompetent in this legislation. But like, that is the point. And if we're not identifying that, we're only trying to apply pressure. The Republican voters will then exceptionalize Donald Trump. They will exceptionalize Tom Tillis. They will exceptionalize Bobby Burns. And then be like, well, as long as the next Republican, like J.D. Vance, says, I won't do that, then we'll be all good. And then J.D. Vance will continue the Republican project of making sure government doesn't work.
Yeah, I just want to make sure it's etched into heads and history that who was in charge when we headed into this darkest time in modern history, in modern American history, meaning in the last maybe, I don't know, a good dark. But look who's in charge. Remember what incompetence looks like. There's no minorities in this cabinet, is there? Like, when is the last time you've seen a? What was the last?
You got Kash Patel.
But what's
Kash Patel out there? You always got the Republican guaranteed black position, HUD. He's an ex-football player, talk like this, I had too many hits to the head, coach. Punch drunk.
I forgot about him. But there's, we're talking about the B team, the C team. These aren't these aren't your best. They're not sending their best.
They're not sending their best.
If this is their best, then
some of them are on Epstein's plane.
I don't know what to tell you. So just remember that this isn't, like you said, it's not our fault. So let's talk about some of the B team a little bit real quick. So
B team.
I'm just going to jump into a clip.
The B sides.
Yeah.
Talked about
again, here's another
in favor of greater
black
autonomy and targeted resources under the control of state and local officials. Does this tragic situation underscore that need for you, or does that change that dynamic of what would work best moving forward?
I think what we've seen here is exactly what President Trump has envisioned for FEMA, is immediately allowing the state to do the response and supporting them in every way that they can. So this response was driven by Governor Abbott and his emergency management director and the local officials that were on the ground, and we were immediately there to fill in the gaps where they needed and to give them their disaster declaration as soon as possible. which happened almost immediately as soon as the governor.
Everything we could have imagined.
How stupid is it to every single state to be prepared for a 100-year storm? That, you know, I know it doesn't. I've looked into a little bit more, Payron, but it's not supposed to. It's only supposed to happen, you know, every, you know, blue moon. The chances are extremely slim.
It's the chances. That's what I looked up too. It was the chances at the beginning of the year. That's what it is. Sorry.
So
yeah,
you know what? It's just so the equipment and these people can just sit on standby every year.
Well, all right. So if I have a mine in Georgia and somebody falls down the mine in a national emergency, I can call on the mining people from from West Virginia to come down because they have expertise in that, and we have a coordinated effort. But no, every state's supposed to have a mining rescue team.
Yes,
and a coordinated effort, and like FEMA is supposed to kind of lead that coordination, right? Especially of other states who do have, like, they have every state should have some sort of resource, but every state's not going to be as ready for
we don't have
storm like that. Or to respond, but like when you respond to an emergency,
you guys are using too much. You guys kill me because you guys use too much goddamn logic, and then you try to like extrapolate the logic and be like, "What?"
I've been tearing my hair out over this stuff.
Well, you've been doing a fantastic job.
Wow.
But like, it's
go hard,
like,
go home.
Their whole point is they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. You know, like there is no plan because they're not investing in anybody learning these trades to understand how to save people. They're not investing in the infrastructure, in the manufacturing of factories to build equipment to pull people out of, you know, water. They're not doing any of this shit. They just don't want to take the blame. They just want the power.
Yeah.
All they care about is that they have the most racist white man or white woman who supports racist white men in power, and then have no responsibility.
And no matter how bad they do, they're going to say, we did the best we could.
Yeah, and I'll put it
into
perspective, you know, as you guys know, but like in the cybersecurity space, like this is what I do: critical incident response. So planning for a worst case scenario. But one of the things that happens is a business gets compromised. Every single business does not have an entire incident response team, a recovery team. Because it would be a waste of money. Yes, they have people, you know, that can handle parts of it, but there's a case that we're working on. We have like 40 people working 24/7 to assist a large enterprise. The reason why companies like ours exist and insurance companies exist is so that the response can be proper. You know, coming from a third party, like you come in and this is what people are specialized to do in the case of an emergency.
You sound woke. You sound woke.
So for me, as somebody who's operational and actually, you know, and it amazes me that people don't think this is, to me, basic logic.
There you go.
But yes, but like
and there's so many business people in the Republican Party that they understand, you know, the hierarchy and the specialization of what it takes to be efficient because they squeeze dollars from anywhere they can. So they know what it looks like and they know what ineptitude looks like, and it's staring them in the face and they don't care.
They only know what business looks like if they can extract the highest amount of profitability for the lowest cost and the most amount of human labor. Like that, they don't understand what it means to actually be a truly like you know, transformative business, you know. So that's what they want to go back to slavery because it's simple. It's simple.
This is the thing that DOJ is supposed to identify, right? So, but they don't. Human life is not of value, like because
you
know, cutting U.S. aid and killing off 300 people that we never have to see. Or, you know, these little lines on a chart where, you know, the number of deaths go up from, you know, diseases here in the United States. It's just it's just a statistic. Like we don't actually have to look at these dead bodies or look at these people. We don't have to humanize them. So, and even if they did humanize them, oh well, like they're collateral, right? That's why Israel's doing what they're doing. That's why we have drones flying over. That's why there's calculations to basically say, you know what? And they've absolved a human from making those decisions and letting a computer basically come up with that, and they can
That's
program
right.
it however they want and say, well, the computer decided that we can kill 50 people in pursuit of this one terrorist, right? So that's where we're at. And then we got people who are again, the Republicans skirt accountability more than anyone that I know.
Skirt.
But yeah, I'm gonna play this clip too.
Ask, I'm going to use your words.
This is clap.
Who's to blame? Know this. That's the word choice of losers. Every football team makes mistakes. The losing teams are the ones that try to point out who's to blame. The championship teams are the ones that say, don't worry about it, man. We got this. We're going to make sure that we go score again, and we're going to win this game. The way winners talk is not to point fingers. They talk about solutions. What Texas is all about is solutions.
So they're talking about...
It is a parent's worst nightmare.
They're talking about... the analogy is terrible, for one. But, and look, natural disasters happen, and people will unfortunately die due to natural disasters. There's no doubt about that. However, the idea is to help reduce the number of injuries and death in any kind of accident or situation. So, like, that's why we have seatbelts. That's why we have first responders. So, to the idea that, I guess we fluffed this one. We flubbed this one, self-inflicted, by the way. And we'll get out there, get on the field next time, and we'll win because we're winners. We're talking about win. Like they're talking. These are people who are supposed to be. They're talking like these are the pretend alpha males, right? We're winners, and they can't take accountability. What kind of, like, if you're a man and you can't take accountability, you are not, in my mind, you're not a man. Like that's I was like you might we could do some general checks that they want to do, right? That's the extent of what makes you a man. These are the weakest of the men that I know. So
I lost my train of thought now. But I mean, either way, I was gonna say that
who would put those men in their place.
I think to use a football analogy, a better one would be like when you lose a game. You got what do the championships teams do or losing teams do? They look at the tape. You got to go back and watch the plays. You got to watch who fucked
what
up.
Do we do better?
Who ran who ran the wrong route? Who threw the ball in the wrong direction? Whatever. And then the next game you improve upon. You don't just say, hey, what did he just say? He said, "Hey man, don't worry about it." Now we're talking about dead little girls. Could you imagine? I mean, again, we are all fathers of little girls. My little girl is right here. Telling me that she's tired. but I mean, I couldn't imagine her being killed and someone be like, "Hey man, don't worry about it. We got it." Like, what do you got?
We'll get it next time.
Uvalde. This is the same guy who responded to Uvalde is like,
and he was reelected.
The whole
what did I say earlier? We can blame these people, but these are the wrong people to blame. Yep. These are the. I mean, yes, they're culpable, no question. They passed legislation, but what I'm saying is, people give them power. They do not fall into office. But yesterday, I was listening to Karen Hunter on Sirius XM, and she was talking to a guy I follow him on Instagram named Ben. I forget his last name, but his name on Instagram is Ben Curious, and he is a white coach for like white people to unlearn white supremacy. And they're talking about joy, and it reminded me of when we had Dr. Kelly Carter Jackson on, where we talked about black joy. And he said, there's a difference between white joy and black joy. And then Karen Hunter stopped him and was like, well, what is white joy? And he was like, white joy is like the idea of winning. It's the idea of dominating. He said, like in a sports game. And so that was yesterday. Well, we got kiddos on screen now. We got we're inching into that time. Say hi.
Now we know it's bedtime. Say hi.
But he said that that it's about winning. It's not about actually finding joy in the moments that pass us, and then doing what's right in the short term. So that was yesterday. So when I heard this, because I didn't hear that clip until today. So when I heard him go right into a sports analogy, it reminded me of the idea that like his idea of any sort of humanity is rooted in wins and losses, not like, am I doing what's better for the people? Because what do we say white supremacy is? It's the idea of I need to have all the power and control and none of the accountability.
Yeah.
100%.
Any kind of criticism or any
Can't have it.
perception,
no dissent.
Perception of loss or whatever it's unmanly, right? It's weak. So,
but in reality, the most beautiful thing on earth is to be able
to fail and to learn,
and to be corrected.
Yeah. You know, you learn from failures, and if failures aren't absolute, right? Like it's a, you know, even when there's a loss of life, yeah, there's a failure that we failed these X number of people who died. And you do a postmortem. Like you said, you review the tape. You look at what you happened. What could you have done better? But in this case, and what we're heading into is like this is self-inflicted in terms of like all of these cuts.
That's right.
All of this disorganization, putting inept people at the top. We're creating catastrophes. We're making these catastrophes. Let me put it like that. We're making catastrophes worse. Or Marjorie Taylor Greene was said that some Barack Obama magically threw seeds into the clouds and caused these things. So
weather cloud seeding. But this is why, again, like they don't want people to believe that, you know, let me go back. What's the point of the government? The point of the government is to, now we got dogs on the screen. Now it's getting too cute. I think somehow it's gotten cuter since the kids were on screen. What's up, puppy? What's the dog's name?
It was Rosie. Rosie Cheeks.
Rosie. Oh, Rosie Cheeks. Love that. Okay. What's up, Rosie? But the point of the government is to protect its citizens from corporations and to provide for them, right? So like, so you say, well, Payron, like this is a natural disaster, this is a catastrophe. Well, if it's been exacerbated by climate change from corporations who lobby the government to allow them to have less regulations to then be able to, you know, make more profit. Like this is how we have to tie in capitalism into all these things. So yes,
but then they are held accountable to the tune of $400 million or whatever, but they never actually have to admit wrongdoing at the same time.
Right.
So it's a culture of no accountability and never saying you're sorry and never admitting that you're wrong.
That sounds just like Trump and Roy Cohn, right? So like, and that shit kills me. And then last thing on this whole thing, because I heard Ted Cruz say it, we heard Mike Johnson say it. Now another dog's on screen. Oh my god! Now
man, that looks like a baby goat.
This is Gunther. This is Gunther. He's a toy poodle.
Gunther.
He's an old man
God.
now. He is deaf
Look
and
at that
blind.
dog, boo.
He's now deaf and blind, but this is little man.
Oh, what's up, Gunther?
Yeah.
My two dogs are too big to be on my lap. You guys have cool dogs that are small. My dogs will be but because my daughter, she's antsy, so I'm trying to finish it up here quickly. But we've heard Ted Cruz, Mike Johnson, you know, Greg Abbott, every Republican, especially after any sort of a mass shooting, climate catastrophe, you name it. What do they say? What's the go-to?
Prayers, man. Thoughts and prayers.
Thoughts and prayers. So my question is this: what are y'all thinking about? What are you praying for? I'm thinking
it's not the future. It's just the past.
You know, I think that's a good question, right? Because they're probably
when I'm thinking because when I'm just real quick, because that's what like when I'm thinking we need a better government. You know, I'm praying that these assholes that let this happen will be out of government. You know what I mean? But like when they said it's just kind of this lofty.
Here as a Christian, and here's what here's what I imagine them praying for. Them praying, you know, I hope no one else dies. Let's pray for their family. What they should be praying for is, you know, God, give me the strength and the wisdom to figure this out, you know, to do the right thing, and, you know, show me the right way of like, how can I, you know, actually do something myself and take action, or besides just having like a faith in a God, but actually like praying to give you personally that's how it would look like for me in these type of situations, right? Like, what am I supposed to do? Guide me.
That's using logic. That's using your empathy.
And you know what?
These are not those people.
And you know what happens on the other side of that for me, and whether, you know, for me, I'm a spiritual, I'm a Christian, but I'm also the person who believes in the power of the universe, right? So all of these things is
you're doing it the right way.
And I oftentimes find the answer, and but it's not just, you can't just like say, well, you know, I honestly don't even know if these people will pray. Like, I think that they just throw out their little thought and prayer on Twitter and they go about their day.
I think what they're thinking of, they're like, my thought is, I'm thinking that ExxonMobil will give me another $200,000 for my campaign, and I'm praying that it will come by next Friday. That's their thoughts and prayers. Like, it's not
untraceable.
It's untraceable. And if it is, so what? I'll say, you know, Citizens United.
Maybe if they want to have a prayer, it should probably be the the Serenity prayer.
But this is
Right.
why we need to have big money out of our politics, because it just sloshed in, and we get this slop from these assholes, and then we'll have more death. And then now we're over here still
They're dealing
blaming
with
individuals like
we're dealing with
Go ahead.
that. And Mamdani is now, I saw where they're putting it, the millionaires are coming together. And to be honest, I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm for it, because you know what?
Do it.
I think that the people are starting to see through it, and they need to see that it is these billionaires and these people like APAC and these people who are funding out of their best interest, but not for the people's best interest. And people need to wake up, and this is the time that people I believe will wake up, start to wake up. And ultimately, like I said, I think this does not end without a revolution. It's just that there has to be something that makes it an event that
It
makes
will be
a
bloodless
turning
if the
point.
left allows it.
But yes, so
Well, these people have fattened themselves off the largesse of capitalism, and so when we do eat the rich, I expect it to be very savory, such as foie gras.
I like that.
So real quick, and we'll just leave it, try to end it in a minute here. But the IRS is saying that the churches can now endorse political candidates. So there's a new funding wing for there's a new PAC. There's a new super PAC. Yeah. But we have
Getting rid of tax exempt status is extremely important in my book.
First off, I don't think that
That was-
churches. I think the churches, many churches, were already endorsing candidates.
That's right.
So, and it works two ways. The Black church can be a powerful political vehicle. I think the Latino Catholic churches can mobilize more, especially around what's happening right now. But Catholic churches have also said that they're not going to endorse political candidates despite IRS shift. So we'll see how it goes. I mean, I don't think much changes in terms of what was actually happening on the ground, but
Just the legal.
it continues to degrade and break down these barriers between church and state, and they should be paying taxes.
And this was, we got to remember, folks, this was the whole reason that Jimmy Carter, one of the reasons that helped him lose, because he was talking about the tax exempt status of Christian schools, Christian, that were absolutely for the Republican Party at the time, right? Spreading white supremacy. He said that himself in the pulpit, actually, ironically. But this is where this cleave comes from, and it's a flashpoint for the historians out there is 1954. That was the year of Brown versus Board of Education. The forced desegregation of schools, which I don't call it desegregation. I don't call it integration. I call it desegregation, because we didn't really integrate. But the whole point was to go back to these specifically segregated schools. And in fact, in 2025, schools today are actually more segregated than they were in 1965. So this has been a long plan, y'all.
And you had a Supreme Court decision recently that said that if your kid has any objection to anything that's being taught on the basis of religious grounds, that they are allowed to exclude themselves, and you are not allowed to teach that type of thing. So that could mean it was meaning trans and homosexual, any type of characters in the books that were being brought
or black history.
That's what I'm saying. So if you have an objection and you can prove some kind of religious objection to anything, then that means you aren't even allowed to be human. If you have homosexual parents, you can't even talk about them because they are not equal status in humanity and are allowed to be set to the wayside, and they can't even be mentioned.
Yeah. Well, I know we want to finish there, but I at least want to talk for a few minutes about Mecha Hitler.
Yeah, that was fun.
Mecha Hitler. If you guys have not heard about this, X's AI chatbot Grok.
Well named.
Great name. Elon Musk last night, or the night before last, was it Monday night, basically said that he's going to take away some of the protocols around Grok because it was too woke, and it was actually telling people the truth. And it was telling people the truth about Elon Musk. It was telling people the truth about Twitter and other things that they were asking it.
So just
go
ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Ron.
No, go ahead.
No, I mean,
finish it. Okay, so this is the guy who went into our U.S. government and installed Doge and used his AI, used probably the same model as Grok, or whatever.
Oh yeah,
how Grok, whatever it is.
Grope.
But he literally this is a tweak. He went from a Grok being too liberal to a Nazi, not a centrist, not slightly leaning to the right. I mean, literally turned into a
Mecha
Nazi.
Hitler. He said, "I,"
and then the problem.
And then it also said that it used the pronoun "I." So there was a point where someone was asking a question and said "I," and I forget what said Elon did, but it basically said that talking like it was Elon. So it just shows that a lot of these some of these AIs, they are not all knowing, and they are meant to put out a certain type of information. I know we want to get them to be nonpartisan or just fact based, but these are models built off of what humans currently know and the zeitgeist of the times, and these things can be corrupted. So it got to a point where I think there was someone last name Steinberg that said something, and that people feel like this is a right wing account that said basically that now there's a bunch more like colonizers that are dead. And then Grok responded with there's always somebody by that last name, basically surmising that the last name sounded Jewish, which is anti-Semitic clearly. And then it went on this kind of tirade from this Steinberg rant, and then back and forth with it in Grok, and it sounded like a racist white man trying to sound like a liberal white girl, and it was terrible tweets from this Steinberg person, and it was like, oh, all these people need to die, and the left will always win. It's like people don't talk like this. This is not where.
Yeah, they try to make it sound like just like a And so, that's the thing about
What's up, Queen?
That's the thing about these tech giants and having control of AI and people relying on things like Grok as their new search engine and their source of truth. That source of truth can be manipulated subtly, or in this case, it turned out to be overtly. So this is the danger that we have ahead of us, right?
Yikes.
Well, if you look at these people, they are basically fake or pseudo humans themselves, and so they are pushing fake or pseudo humanity. They don't understand anything because they don't understand themselves.
That's right. And so then on the heels of this big news, the CEO of X, which really was never the CEO, she was never really calling the shots. Well, what's her name, Ron? I forget it right now.
Yacarino?
Nancy, Yacarino, or
Nancy Yacarino.
Linda Yacarino.
Linda Yacarino. She
Yeah.
stepped down. And I don't think it was because of these tweets. I think it was just kind of this is someone who, when Elon was giving double sig Heil, she had to go out there and talk to investors and be like, that's okay that he was doing this. She was taking a lot of bullets now, but also she's a right winger herself. Her husband is a huge Trump supporter. She's a Trump supporter. And I think she kind of wanted to get the 2 years under her belt as CEO. And it just came, I think, maybe, I don't know if it was the last straw or she had already got her resignation letter already together, but she had resigned the same day as we got Mecha Hitler, or the day after we got Mecha Hitler. So just a good bunch of people that just have a different sense of opinion that is equal to us, who just want people to survive and have glasses and go to the dentist and shit. Like they're just two separate but equal.
I promise you this, that today is Thursday's show, and by Sunday, we're not going to have anything else to talk about.
Nope, not at all. Not at all. Not at all.
Well, I think that's about does it. I
think so.
To end on, there was one video we missed, which was
the
one where the agriculture secretary basically said that we are replacing
that's the thing,
migrant
man. Like, you don't get to so much.
Migrant workers with Medicaid recipients.
Do you have the clip?
I do have the clip.
Drop it, just drop it, man. You know what? Like, we're running on fumes, baby. My daughter has one eye open like a pirate right now.
No amnesty. The mass deportations continue, but in a strategic way, and we move the workforce towards automation and 100% American participation, which again, with 34 million people, able-bodied adults on Medicaid, we should be able to do that fairly quickly. Thank you.
So first off, there's this delusion that that's going to actually happen too. Well, there's a lot of.
Pull that back up again. Just pull the video up.
But I want people to realize one thing. She said automation. There's like
the
automation.
That means robots and you.
People. That does not mean people. And granted, there's some automation within manual labor in terms of like the fields, but
I mean,
A lot of
the cotton
that is a
gin,
highly
the cotton
manual
gin
labor.
was automation, but that did not stop slavery. Okay,
Yeah.
it actually only made it worse. There's a comment to the side of her that I want to read here. It says racism, parenthetically white supremacy, has long hid behind the skirts of white women. Written in the Tulsa Tribune, 1921. And if you guys know anything about the Tulsa around that time in 1921, that's the year of the Tulsa Massacre. And that was in their newspaper after the massacre. So when we see people like her, Caroline Levitt, Pam Blondie, any of the Trump spawn that are of female genders,
How
it is
can they
that
possibly be anything but good faith actors?
it is that same quote that like they are upholding a system that will lead to death, it will lead to slavery, it will lead to dehumanization, it will lead to dismemberment, and we cannot let them try to fall back into this wilting flower like, oh, I'm just a mom. No, Moms for Liberty is a good example of a bunch of neo-Nazi women that are upholding a system of patriarchal domination and white supremacy. So just because she's the ag secretary saying these things, she's ultimately saying like, listen, we will make sure that all of y'all gonna be okay with working these, being in a bread line, keeping lights on to some sort of a plant with a bunch of robots, but they mean robots and you in that order.
But not them.
No, not their children. No, not them or their children
Well,
or their friends.
And despite recipients of Medicaid and SNAP benefits,
Oh yes,
being
that's right.
largely white, I do wonder if these are the black jobs that Trump was talking about that Latinos migrants were taking.
Yeah.
Because I also theorized when he was saying this, I'm like, I remember before I think maybe even before the election was like, I think he's going to deport people and try to say that backfill with other folks that black jobs, right? Like he thinks that these are going to be filled by people on, again, Medicaid, and
the numbers.
The numbers
don't work out. Like I mean,
they
so when
don't.
they're saying what she said with 30, I think that's the number of how many people. I think there's 40 million people currently on or leveraging Medicare, and some people don't realize they're on Medicaid because it might be called like or it might be called 10 Connect, right? And it's not called Medicaid, right? Or it might be called like Seattle or Wash Care or whatever. It's actually derivative of Medicaid. But yeah, to your point, Ron, 2/3 of people on Medicaid are working.
Mm-hmm.
And then like another large swath are like, they're unable, they're physically unable to work. And then there's a very small percentage of these kind of able-bodied guys just sitting on the couch. They don't want to have any money in their pocket, but they do want to be able to go to the doctor. Like who is this person? It's like, I don't want to work. I don't want any money. I just want to be able to go to the doctor. Like I don't want to be able to feed myself. I want to be able to pay for it. I just want to be able if I need to go get that oncology or that proctologist that I need to go see.
This is that whole thing where they rather harm 99 because of one bad apple, and that's that whole, and they're lazy about how they're approaching. Like, they're just cutting it. They're making it. It's expensive to be. It's expensive to be poor. I'll say it like that, right? So like all of these hoops, all these hoops that you have to jump through, these additional hoops as a like. I sometimes imagine like myself in some of these situations, right? And to think that to not be able to call off work because you're not on a non-salary position, and you have to take care of your kid, and to not have a car, to use public transportation, to all these things are just compounded and it's like I don't think a lot of people would survive
freedom.
Just the paperwork hurdles alone, I think they said is going to kick.
You guys sound like you hate our freedom.
People off.
You guys sound like you hate our freedom, guys.
Stop
hating our freedom.
And there's how many people have at some point been on some sort of government assistance in their life and ultimately ended up successful? If you were recipient of a FAFSA loan, federal loan, federal grants.
If you drive on a fucking road, if you've ever called the cops, if you've ever, these are all socialist systems that we pay into. And that's why they say austerity is theft, because we all pay taxes, but then they take our taxes and give it to the 1% multinational corporations or they put it into speculation into the market.
That's where I want my taxes going. I want my taxes to take care of the most vulnerable, take care of kids, make sure that kids have food, to take care of the roads. I don't want my taxes going to the military to create an entire new military unit to rip people off the streets, to cause harm, to kill people, to pay corporations, to put corporate welfare. Like it's insane.
Elon Musk, we're paying Elon Musk $8 million a day.
I don't think that they could make it any more obvious at this point. And that's why I'm saying at some point the American consciousness has to like wake up, and it's starting to, and they have to understand that it's the between the haves and the have-nots, or the poor and the working class and the hard workers versus the ultra rich. Like why are we running interference and protecting the 1%? Why?
This is where the utility of racism, sexism, homophobia comes into play. Because again, you don't see Republicans knocking doors saying, "I know you're on Medicaid, SNAP, all these other social safety nets. Can we take that from you and go give it to a billionaire?" They're like, "No, but don't you want the trans athlete to cut the PP off?" And we do. Oh my God, that sounds crazy. And then the church pastor says it, and then the podcaster says it.
Who cast the deciding vote on the big beautiful bill? I think it was Mr. Hillbilly Elegy.
That's right, Smokey Eye.
Snap when he was a kid himself, J.D. Vance.
Oh my gosh, Jefferson David Vance himself. But yeah, that's why I'm like, we can't let the voters off the hook. And I know it's hard for a lot of people who are listening who may have Republican friends. They may lay in a bed with a Republican, the Republican husband, the Republican father, the Republican neighbor, the Republican boss, the Republican coworker. Listen. This is the time to apply pressure to those people. Again, folks like Ron and myself, they do not see as deserving or even deserving of even listening to, even though we just saw the top of the show, Stacey Abrams is doing the same thing Black women have always done since being forced onto Turtle Island. It was to tell the goddamn truth about this place. They don't want to listen to us.
Yeah.
Now we got 27 kids that have just died in Mystic Camp in Texas. We got houses floating down the street in New Mexico. We got Durham underwater. We got mass shootings. We got measles. We even talked about that today. The highest point it's ever been in like decades. Like at a certain point, it is you. It is you. And you got to do that work in the white community.
Up good, and you have to accept that fact and move on, move forward, and join the fight that's going to change that.
Yeah, listen to the woke. Stop trying to run away from the woke.
Stop looking for the singular narrative, people. Yeah. Stop. It's not worth it.
And I even so this is the long one we had, but this is good.
It was a good one. It was a long one, but a good one.
I hadn't had a lot of time this week to digest and intake a lot of the news, but
do you feel digested? Do you feel digested, Ron?
Have you exercised?
Because we're gonna hop off, and there's probably some breaking news that happened while we were on.
Oh yeah. Well, it's never the headline that I'm looking for.
Yeah, I think we all know which one that is.
Cheeseburger in paradise.
So, anyways,
it's never that one.
We can hope.
Oh yeah, we always si se puede. Folks, thank you for tuning into the Radical Cruz podcast. I am your co-host Peyron Baxter.
And your co-host Ram Sandoval.
I am your humble servant Ron Cabuna.
And we will see you next time.
Thank you, everyone.
Peace.
Peace.